What's good, everybody? Welcome into a very special start time for the Early Wedge, part of the Early Edge universe. You guys have made this show the fastest growing show in all of the land. This week, a little Masters hangover, perhaps, but no longer just the let's travel 130 miles down the road. It's now an elevated event. That means all the top players, almost, are going to be at the RBC Heritage, the Harbor Town Golf Links, par 71, 7,200 yards approximately. And let's take a look at the betting favorites before I bring in the stars of the show. And this week, what a shock. Scotty Scheffler is your betting favorite. Your reigning, defending, undisputed Masters champion, Jon Rahm, playing here for the first time since 2020. He's at plus 900. And then you see everybody else. Look at all those names. You know it's an elevated event when all those names show up. So I'm here for it. We're ready for it. And we never take a week off. So with all that being said, let's bring in the stars of the show. And last week, we missed him so much. But he's back from the Masters. Mr. Patrick McDonald, how was your week in Augusta, sir?
I'm exhausted. I might be more hungover than the players themselves, typing so many words, hunched over in my chair. But I'm happy to be back with you guys.
Hey, Sia, don't let him fool you, right? The chair he's talking about has his name in front. He's got his own locker. They've got a 5-star restaurant just down the hallway for the media. Don't act like he was slumming it last week. Am I right, Patrick?
I plead the fifth.
You're damn right I'm right. Now, next.
He knows that one.
He is the counselor of cash, and he can do it all. That's why he's on every single show. He is the man. See you, Nejad. Good afternoon, sir.
Can't wait for the show. Can't wait for the RBC Heritage. I'll tell you what, Patrick, it didn't go unnoticed when you texted our little text thread and said, I can't make the show for the Masters because I've got to go to Augusta, as if it was a chore. So that was a pretty sweet way to construct your words there. And yes, I was jealous when I received that text.
But Sia, you know what we did. I mean, Patrick, you ever heard of the term Wally Pip? Because we brought in a very good replacement, a tip of the cap to Steve Scott, who filled in very nicely last week. And we brought in a guy who played in the Masters, not that was going to the Masters. You know what I'm saying, Patrick? You know
yeah, that's fair. And I saw you guys cash a couple first-round leader tickets too. So very good replacement. I'll have to try to keep up.
We'll see what we can do. All right, we got a lot to get to today. We got storylines. We got to talk about players. We do our best bets. If you're brand new to the Early Wedge, we do it all for you here. A little fantasy as well. But first, let's do storylines that could affect the betting lines this week. And see, I'm going to start with you. Every single year, this is a storyline. But this year, it's a little bit different because of the strength of field. The Masters hangover. Start us off.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like the PGA Tour prescribed this to come right after the Masters, in the sense that it's impossible to have a hangover when you have this talented of a field coming to the RBC Heritage. So it's really interesting because I think a lot of people might just their automatic response might be to tune out a little bit. But no, we have an incredible field outside of Rory, who's not playing, and Will Zalatoris, who has the injury. This is just as good of a field as the Masters, pretty much, outside of the live guys not being here. So it's just going to be really interesting. This is a big-time event with big-time money on the line. So I'm really excited for it.
No doubt about it. And Patrick in the chat, Chris says, really nice to see all the big names in this tournament. Maybe make a few plays on guys who didn't compete at the Masters. They got to be tired, I would think, which leads right into your storyline.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen a Masters champion play the week following like Jon Rahm will this week. So it does lead to a potential Kurt Kitayama situation at the Arnold Palmer, or even Nick Taylor at the WM Phoenix Open. We saw Cam Smith, after he contended at the Masters in 2022, miss the cut in this tournament last year. And then Justin Thomas, after he won the PGA Championship, he missed the cut at the Charles Schwab Challenge. So don't be worried or afraid of some of these lesser known names who did have the week off, right? We have guys like Denny McCarthy, Nick Taylor, who have been playing great golf. And at the same time, someone like maybe a Russell Henley, who had a great Masters and can roll that momentum into maybe another one.
Oh, it's funny that you should mention Russell Henley. In the chat, they're talking about Russell Henley. And one of the really smart guys here on the show may also be leaning into Russell Henley this particular week. Now, I had somebody in the chat I was going to go to, and now I can't find it. But there is another big name this week that's not playing. And it brings up a very, very interesting point that we knew was coming. So, see, I'm coming right back to you. Rory McIlroy has not announced a reason, but he has pulled out of this event. And here's the problem. If it would have been 2022 or before, that would have been fine. But now we basically have a schedule for the top guys, just like in the NBA or Major League Baseball. You got to show up and play. He did not play in the first event of the year, which was an elevated event. They could only skip one. So he potentially could lose millions of dollars if they so choose. Your thoughts on Rory not being there?
Yeah, and I'm not willing to speculate on why he's not here. I mean, I don't think it's injury related. Honestly, it just could be just sheer disappointment from how he performed last week and how he wasn't to be able to overcome some obstacles. The reality for Rory is giving up millions probably doesn't mean that much. I mean, he's one of maybe a handful of guys on the tour that can probably afford to forfeit some money if he ends up having to do that. But yeah, it is strange to see that. I mean, we all thought he was going to be super prepped going into the Masters. Clearly, he wasn't the Rory that people expected. And I don't know, maybe now he just decided that his game's not in the right place suddenly and wants to take a couple of weeks off.
And I'm an idiot because I did not do things correctly. See, I apologize for that. Patrick, let me come to you from a PIP perspective or a tour perspective. What is your thoughts on Rory not being there this week?
Honestly, I'm pretty disappointed in Rory McIlroy. One, after this new schedule gets rolled out, he misses the very first elevated event, like you said, Coach, at Kapalua. And then this one, he's the first one to skip two. We don't know why he withdrew. I'm not sure if this will be kind of grounds for him forfeiting that money. He came second in the PIP, which means he collected $12 million. So he has a potential to lose up to $12 million. I don't think it's going to reach that much. It's probably just a percentage of it, but that's the potential he has. And we're going to kind of face this situation again down the road after the U.S. Open. The Travelers Championship is a newly designated event. That's in Cromwell, Connecticut. The boys are playing in L.A. That's cross country. It's not a 2-hour drive like this week. So that could, lead to more players maybe forfeiting money, because I know a lot of guys aren't too happy with the schedule. We heard Jordan Spieth talk about it at Augusta. He's exhausted, and he's playing this week defending his title. But it'll be interesting moving forward if this WD is, will allow Rory to not forfeit that money as opposed to just skipping the tournament, and kind of what that's going to play out.
And when I hear feedback like that, and everybody knows I work for the PGA Tour, I don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. Fans at home do not want to hear it, that you're going to play 22 weeks of the year or 23 weeks. There's 52 weeks in a year. Suck it up. You're playing for millions of dollars. You were T4 last week. Stop it with the schedule a little bit. That's how I feel. Now, exactly, nobody wants to play the world's smallest violin. I got 2 trivia questions before we get to our DFS and our picks. Can anybody tell me the last player to win the Masters and then win the RBC Heritage the next week? Does anybody know the name?
Stuart Sink.
No, because Stuart Sink's never won the Masters, Patrick. Come on.
Sandy Lyle.
No, well, close. Bernhard Longer, 1985. He did it, won back-to-back weeks. Do you know the last player to win the Masters and even play the next week at the RBC Heritage?
Ooh.
Oh, brother. Mike Weir.
You're an idiot. All right. Jordan Spieth.
I was going to say that. Darn it.
Yep. He's the defending champion this week as well. He knows this course. He loves this course. But it's been 8 years since a Masters champion teed it up the next week. That's how significant this week is. So let's get to it. And we love the flow of this show. If you're brand new to the Early Wedge, we're going to do DFS. We're going to do best bets, wins, head-to-heads, long shots. We'll do it all. So let's start where we always start, with DFS. I need 3 plays, and I need a fade. Patrick, you're up first. What do you like this week?
We're going to kick it off with the Canadian Corey Connors at 7,800. How soon we forget, right? He just won in Texas. He was fabulous in his second win in San Antonio. Missed the cut at the Masters, which was a bit of a shell shock, shock to the system. He hadn't missed the cut. 3 straight top 10 finishes. I got the train going on because they're all aboard the Corey Connors train in the background. He has 3 straight top 20 finishes, or top 21 finishes here. T21, T4, T12, those last 3 starts. So you think about accurate driver, fantastic iron player. That's Corey Connors to a T. And his fellow countryman, Adam Hadwin, 7,300. This is just an Adam Hadwin type of course. He finished T13 at the Players Championship. Irons haven't been great, but I like him in this range. You're going to get a ton of 175 to 200 yards. Nearly a third of these approach shots would be from that distance. So I like the course fit, and I like kind of where his game is trending when he's on these type of courses. So had one at 73, and then I'm all aboard the Denny McCarthy train this week. He was sick at the Honda Classic, so if you take that start out, last 3 stroke plays, all top 20 finishes. That includes, at the Genesis Invitational in a designated event. And the ball striking has actually been quite good. He was great at the match play, lost to Rory on the 18th hole, obviously. But it's been the putter that has let him down. And we all know Denny McCarthy, his bread and butter is the flat stick. So I like him to kind of return to form on the greens. And he has a nice history here with a T13 a couple years ago. And I'm fading the golden boy, Jordan Spieth, 10,400. I don't like his tone. We got to put him in timeout. I don't like his tone. He's tired. He's running on fumes. And look, he still has that big left miss in the bag. We saw it on the 72nd hole at Augusta National. I think his win last year was kind of fluky. There were probably 5 other guys who should have won this tournament, and somehow it kind of just fell into his lap. So I will fade Jordan Spieth at 10-4.
That hurts my heart. That hurts my heart. It really does. By the way, Taylor speaks for a lot of people in the Early Wedge universe. He says, whoa, almost missed the show today with the early show. Just want to thank you guys for getting me into golf. One sport I never thought I would find myself watching or interested in. Early Wedge rules. Now, I apologize, I can't read because the sun is so bright here in Florida. I don't know where you guys are at, but I'm in gorgeous Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right next to Nejad. And Nejad's picks are right next to Patrick McDonald. See what I did there? See ya. What do we like this week on DFS?
Pro move, coach. Pro move. Okay. Speaking of pro moves, we both have Corey Connors, me and Patrick and I. So I'm actually going to give you an extra pick here because I don't want to have 5 instead of 6. So let's start with Viktor Hovland. I've been calling his name quite a bit, including last week, by the way. He was one of my 4 outright picks. I actually thought he had a legitimate chance going into round 4. It didn't work out. But the bottom line is this guy's ready to win. I love the trajectory. I like what he's doing with the short game. This is a tough field, but it shouldn't be a problem for Viktor Hovland to find himself in position on Sunday again. And I think 9,800, it might seem a little high because you got guys like Tony Finau and Xander Schauffele below him, but I actually think that's a very reasonable price. Shane Lowry, another reasonable price. If you look at his history here, and listen, I'm not going to be a course history snob here at the RBC Heritage, particularly because the field is typically watered down here. 2020 was the only year at the RBC Heritage where you had all the big boys come back, and that's because it was one of the tournaments that emerged right after the COVID break. So if you're looking at 2020, I think that's actually a pretty good barometer of how these guys are going to contend against an elite field. All the other years, I'll pay attention to it, but it's not going to be as important as other years. Shane Lowry, regardless, to me, he's an elite player. I think his form is really trending in the right direction. 8,300 is such a steal. He honestly should be, given his current form and his experience. If he was 8,900, I wouldn't even blink at it. Now, we both have Corey Connors here. I'll tell you, I was debating Corey Connors and JJ Spawn. JJ Spawn is 6,900, so he's giving you a ton of value. By the way, side note, I think the Denny McCarthy play is incredibly smart, particularly because his woes were flat stick related, and we know that's going to regress back to the mean for him. But yeah, give me JJ Spawn. I've noticed in some betting markets too, with respect to some matchups, that Spawn is a favorite against guys that you wouldn't think he'd be a favorite from. His experience here, it's not very good, but let's not forget about JJ Spawn. It's a different guy over the last year and a half. And while he hasn't been good this year, if you look at the last couple of tournaments, he is definitely trending in the right direction. So Corey Connors, yes, I like him. But if you want a 4th play here, it's JJ Spawn at 6,900. I'm only fading Jon Rahm, by the way, because of his price. This is a DFS fade. It's not necessarily a tournament fade. If you make a lineup with Jon Rahm or even Scottie Scheffler in it, and you want to take your favorite 9K guy, look at how much you have left. You're going to be in like the mid 7Ks right off the bat with 4 more guys to build with. It's just not where I want to be. So I'd rather start in the upper 9K range or the very low 10K range with like a Cantlay or Morikawa. So Jon Rahm is my DFS fade.
And that's also betting with history. I mean, it's so incredibly difficult, and we tease about being tired. But when you win the Masters, it's a completely different story than finishing T8 or T9. You're there till midnight doing interviews. It's a celebration. It's a lot. So you're fading the guy who just won 4 days ago because he'll probably have a slow start and might have like a T18. That's what I foresee for Jon Rahm. So I love the explanation, and I love the fade of Jon, certainly at $11,000 price. All right. Many of you in the chat are already hopping. You're already talking about it. Somebody said that Sia is the sun. bright as the sun and bringing sunshine to our wallets. Very nice there, Mike. How about that? And they said, is it the sun, Coach, or is it Sia's shirt that you can't read the chat on your computer? Interesting. Interesting. All right. Now, as many of you know, we had Steve Scott on last week, who has played in the Masters. He also is a big part of what we have coming next. The next major, part of PGA of America, one of the top 50 coaches in America. And 20 of them qualify for this.
Golf's biggest stars descend on Oak Hill for one unforgettable major. The PGA Championship, coming in May to CBS.
Oh, can't wait for the next major. Will Jon Rahm make it 2 for 2? By the way, I think he's going to be the next player to win the career Grand Slam because I think he's won the 2 hardest legs first. Yes or no? Agree with me, Sia? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick? You don't think Masters and U.S. Open is harder to win than the PGA and the Open?
No, I don't know. It's a great question, right? There's so many guys. Morikawa has 2.
Yep.
Spieth just needs the PGA.
Yep.
Koepka looks like he's rounding into form, but I mean, Jon Rahm's a beast. It's hard to bet against him.
Oh, beast. I mean, he's getting better. The more children he has, the better he's playing. Hopefully he doesn't get 5. If he gets to 5, nobody else will ever win. All right. Now, last week, we have a special guest on the show, Steve Scott. And, we're going through our first round leaders, something that Sia and Patrick are amazing at. And he throws out Brooks Koepka. And I said, Brooks Koepka? He goes, yes. And he gave us all the reasons why. And guess who went out and shot a 7 under 65 and we cashed? Had to split it 3 ways, but that's fine. I'll take plus 1150. So this week, where are we going? Patrick McDonald, let's start with you. Where are we going for the first round leader?
Oh, man, I've been super critical of Justin Thomas this entire year. But I took the bait. I'm buying in on JT this week. I know he had the miscut at the Masters. He looked devastated on the 18th hole there Saturday morning, rain coming down. Looked like he was about to cry. But he's going to get back on the train here. 40-1 to lead after the first round. He's top 20 in each tee to green metric. We all know he's been great in that respect. It's just really the putter, and he's gained strokes putting here 3 out of the last 4 years. So he does have some good history he can lean on. I like the work he's doing. He put in a new type of putter. Very subtle change, but I think it'll be good. It'll release the toe a little bit more. And then Tyrrell Hatton. Sia brought up the 2020 tournament. Tyrrell Hatton finished 3rd in that. He easily could have won when Webb Simpson did. The putter has kind of abandoned him at the match play and at the Texas Open. Struck the ball well. He hates Augusta National. He is very adamant about his dislike for Augusta National and the greens in particular. So I'm not putting too much stock in how he putted last week. He hit the ball fine. He's gained more than not on the greens at this golf course at Harbor Town. So I like him at 55-1. I think that's a pretty fair price.
I do too. And let me preface this, Patrick, by saying don't kill the messenger. I'm just here as the host of the show, and I've got to be transparent. And in the chat, Taylor says, in caps, bring Steve back. Are you offended by that?
Ouch.
No, I mean, look, this is a performance-based business, right? If you're not playing well, you don't get up into the designated events. I understand that better than anyone, maybe. So to Taylor, I welcome it. I welcome kind of the heat on me. Steve's great. He just, great bets, but I thrive under pressure.
Now, I will say this. And he's probably going to kill me for doing this. But Steve is somewhat new to the whole betting world. And he was so excited on Thursday night because all of his head-to-heads were hitting. He goes like, man, I've already cashed 4. If I go, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. But he was excited because some were round 1. He was excited. Now, see it, Nejad. I'm very excited because I see a couple of names on your first-round leaderboard that I'm leaning heavily into with my plays this week as well. Talk to me.
So real quick, very, very quick story. First of all, congrats again, Brooks Koepka, Steve Scott, first round leader. That was an excellent play. But real quick story about Brooks Koepka, because we just talked about DFS. I was in first place in the 50K scramble on DraftKings for $5,000 going into round 4, partly because my top 3 guys in the tournament were Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, and that guy, Brooks Koepka. And they were the only guys in the top 20 who were over par in the entire tournament. So literally my 5,000 went to like, 400 real quick. I ended up miraculously finishing 12th because I had Jordan Spieth in there, and I had FYI Joaquin Neiman and somebody else I can't remember. But the long story short is I just needed those guys to be like even par, and I would have probably top 3'd that tournament. That was a gruesome Sunday for me. But again, credit to Steve and that Brooks Koepka first round leader. Okay, my first round leaders, Cameron Young and Victor Hovland. We don't need to go through this again because I talked about these very guys at the Masters last week. Now I will concede that perhaps with Cameron Young, he might be a better course fit for the Masters than here. But honestly, I think Cameron Young can win at any course. We've actually seen that. And for the record, we've seen him finish 3rd place here last year. Paul Tesori on the bag can only help. So the spike round potential in the first round, I love it for Cameron Young and Victor Hovland at plus 3,500 and plus 4,000. We talked about Shane Lowry, super comfortable here. If you actually go back and look to see how he has succeeded at the RBC Heritage, because he very much has, it's with the approach play and with the putting. And that's really what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for pristine approach play because I'm not really worried about off the tee. And I'm looking for somebody who's comfortable on these greens. And Lowry proves that over and over again. So give me Shane Lowry at plus 4,500. And then a couple long shots here. These are ones where if you want to sprinkle, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. Just invest in those top 3 guys. Wyndham Clark is on a nice little trajectory. I don't expect him to win this tournament, but at plus 8,000 at 80-1, I think you could sprinkle a little something as a first round leader. And then JJ Spawn getting a little bit of respect in the betting markets. I do think he's a great course fit, a shorter hitter that when he dials in on approach and with the putter can really scare a leaderboard, not for 4 rounds, but maybe for 1.
And when he plays good and he has a good tournament, almost every single time he has a good first round. Almost every single time he has a good first round. See ya. Thank you very much. Now the storyline and the drama continues because now Taylor in the chat says nothing against Patrick at all. Well, that's no fun, Taylor. That's no fun at all. It's everything against Patrick. Everything against Patrick.
Please hate me. Come on. I can take it.
I spent 10 years with the entire audience hating me. It's okay. It feels pretty good. All right. So we're done now with first round leaders. We've done DFS. And if you're brand new to the early wedge, you know. No, you don't know because you're brand new to the show. Those of you who've been here, ask them. Your bread and butter. You're not going to make a ton of money, but this is where it's at. Head-to-head matchups. So, see you, Nejad. I'm coming right back to you. Head-to-heads this week. Going to look very, very different than in years past, and I'm here for it. Talk to me.
Yeah, so let's start with probably, I don't know that I have a favorite here, but let's start with Justin Rose over Seamus Power. Seamus Power, he's playing okay at the end of the day, but it's really Justin Rose where the metrics are probably a little bit better than Seamus Power. And honestly, the recent stretch of good finishes, when it comes to Justin Rose specifically, it really speaks to me as it relates to Seamus Power, who was sort of wilted in tournaments. So Justin Rose minus 130, I think there's value there. The next one is Shane Lowry over Tyrrell Hatton. And I'll be honest, this one's somewhat of a close call because he's a small dog here at minus 108. Obviously, minus 110 would be equal footing. He's minus 110 in some places, minus 108 in others. But I think he has just enough, especially with the course experience, to beat Tyrrell Hatton here. Again, great course history. The recent form, that's really what I'm focused on. The recent form for Shane Lowry, and I'm talking recent, like last 12 rounds, last few tournaments, he is now trending in the direction that we thought he would trend toward at the beginning of the year. Well, now we're seeing it. And with Tyrrell Hatton, he's actually trending down just a little bit of a plateau for him. That doesn't mean he's going to have a bad tournament, but I really like Shane Lowry in this tournament in general. And then the third one here is a big plus number. And this is one that I really looked at cautiously because the number didn't make a lot of sense to me, which to me means maybe there's some sharp money on KH Lee here. But I don't really care because I like what I'm seeing from Matt Wallace. His recent play has been very good. At plus 120, I'm willing to take this bet because honestly, I think this should be like maybe plus 100, if anything. So give me Matt Wallace over KH Lee.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said, great pick. KH Lee sucks. Unless he's playing on a TPC course. Then he wins all the time.
And he was good. And Coach, he was good at the Masters. I mean, KH Lee was impressive at the Masters. So, I mean, I can give credit where it's due, but I just think Matt Wallace's game is in a better place right now.
I agree. All right. Now, as you can imagine, Patrick, the chat has already realized, which I'm sure you have realized as well, that you already have an X on the board before we even get started. So if you'd like to do your three, and then I'll come in right after you, and then we'll handle a little business, I'm sure, after that. So Please enlighten us, sir.
Yeah, I'll start off with a surefire winner. Colin Morikawa -120 over Jordan Spieth. And look, you think about this golf course, accurate driving, pristine iron play from 175 to 200 yards. That's Colin Morikawa to an absolute T. And then kind of the JV version of this. In high school when the JV basketball team plays before the varsity basketball team the game before, that's kind of like Tom Hoagie over Bez compared to Colin Morikawa and Spieth. But Hoagie is the same type of player, accurate, great wedge player, great iron player. So -110 over kind of a wild variable Bez. I'm going to take that. And then I know I just said it's tough to bet against Jon Rahm, but if there is a week to do it, I think it's this week, especially against Scotty Scheffler in a pick'em. Scheffler's been so good from tee to green. It's just really the putter. I think he was second tee to green at the Masters. He looked like me with the putter in hand, which is unfortunate. Small greens should allow him to make a few more putts. So at -110, I love that one.
There's two reasons why I love that one. First, Jon Rahm now, more than any other time in his career, do we know how big his lead is in the FedEx Cup standings? Can anybody give me a number on what you think his lead is in the FedEx Cup standings? Either one of you.
1,200.
I didn't know you'd go that high. 786. For anybody at home that doesn't know, a normal week you get 500 FedEx Cup points, meaning that Jon Rahm could sit out this week and the person could win and he'd still be in the lead, just sitting out. So he knows he doesn't have a ton to play for because he has such a big lead. Also, I just think he's going to have that hangover. I love this pick, and you're never going to get Scheffler at this number hardly ever, right? Unless it's
correct
against Rory or Jon Rahm. So I love that play. Love that play. But that brings us to our little situation here, Patrick McDonald. And I'll very quickly, I don't need to go over Lowry and Rose because those are the same as Sia. And again, we don't talk to each other. Those are both on DK. All of mine are on DK. Tom Kim over JT. I'm fading JT till he shows me that he can actually do something. And I love JT. But Tom Kim is a guy that every place he shows up, he figures it out very, very quickly. I'm just fading Justin Thomas here. That's what this is all about. And then Henley over Siwoo Kim. I'm all in on Russell Henley. This is a course that is made for him. And he had a really good Sunday, so I think that catapults him into a really good week. And then to our final play, the disrespect, the fading of the defending champion, the very man who a week ago, 4 days ago, 2 days ago, had a huge Sunday after laying an egg on Saturday or the third round. And you, Patrick McDonald, are going to tell me, you're going to tell Jordan Spieth that he's not good enough to beat Colin Morikawa? That's what you're going to tell me?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell him. I'll tell the world, the Early Edge fam, whoever wants to know.
Whoever wants to know. Well, I've only got one question for you, sir. Are you in? Or are you out?
Oh, come on, Coach. Last time we did this, I think you paid me on Thursday. Of course I'm in.
Hey, we don't have to talk about it. This is
Of course I'm in. Play that music.
Let's go.
It's gonna be a showdown.
Oh, I love that music. It's a true story. I had to pay both of these clowns on Thursday at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, day one. I was 9 back after 4 hours. Maybe more than that, actually. That one hurt. It stung. I'll be honest with you. That one stung a lot. I love this showdown. I love this showdown this week. I really, really do. All right, so those are our head-to-heads. That's the money. That's really where you're going to build up your bank account to take shots on winners, on finishes, all that type of stuff. So where are we going next? Well, we're going right to where I talked about, finishing positions. This could be a top 40, a top 20, a top 10, a top 5, anything but a winner. Patrick McDonald coming right back to you. Oh, wait, you don't do these, do you? But you did want to sit there and listen to me and Sia do them. See what I did there, Sia? See, I kind of swooped in and then came right back over to you. That's next level hosting right there, Patrick. Next level showdowning as well is what I'm up to this week. Sia Nejad. Who do you like this week and where?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I don't normally have this many in the top 20 or top 10, top 40 market, but I do like a lot of these, especially at the prices that I'm getting. So I've got 2 top 20s and I've got 4 top 40s for you. The top 20s, Cameron Young, plus 115, Victor Hovland at plus 125. I honestly think these are great numbers. I think the market here this week for the top 20 and top 40 market, I do think it's rich with potential. And I really think, listen, the funny part is one of these two guys could finish top 20 and you're still making a few bucks. But I do think both of them are going to finish inside the top 20. I considered Colin Morikawa at minus 105 here as well, but I ended up leaving him out just because I like the plus numbers on Young and Hovland a little bit better. The top 40 market, it's another one of the same stories, except it's even better when it comes to how many of these guys need to actually make the top 40 to churn a profit. Well, only 2 out of 4, but look at the numbers here. This is, again, the top 40 market. If 2 out of the 4 actually make it, and especially if it's somebody in that plus 150 or plus 200, you're not just making a few bucks, you're making more than that. So I like Wyndham Clark for the reasons I stated as the first round leader. I just like the trajectory that he's on at plus 135. JJ Spawn, I see him getting respect in the market at plus 140. And again, I like where his game is at. Now, JJ Spawn is the type of guy that could also crash and burn. It's a volatile play, but I like this price at plus 140. Ben Martin, those of you that aren't paying attention to Ben Martin, I talk about him a lot, not only on this show, but on the First Cut with Rick on the Monday DFS show, because he has been a shining star basically this whole season. And at plus 150, I think people are still kind of surprised to see him near the top of the leaderboard. They shouldn't be anymore, because Ben Martin is one of those guys that could comfortably be inside the top 40, even at an elevated event like this. And then Sam Stevens at plus 200. This guy's really shined. If you look at his finishing positions as of late, one was at Corrales, I think it was third, but at the Valero, I believe he finished second place there. Sam Stevens is really proving that the game is sort of back on. Like, he hasn't been good for a while, but we're looking at somebody that's actually on a really, really nice trajectory. And at plus 200, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this guy's like 30th, 25th, 22nd in this tournament, but top 40 is very, very reasonable here.
It is at this time of the show every week that I realize that Sia is just a lot smarter than I am, and that was never more apparent than the last 90 seconds. However, this First Cut show you speak of, I'm not familiar with it that much, so I will have to just be confused at that, right, Patrick? First Cut? Not familiar with it. John Parker in the chat says, great pick, Patrick, stealing money. That's a shot at me, John. That's how I take it. It's me against the world. You want to back his Morikawa? I'll take all the showdowns. I'll take everybody. 10 showdowns. I want them all. Not really. All right, I'm going to go quickly. Jordan Spieth, plus 110. This is just a place he thrives. Defending champion. He always plays well when he comes here for the most part. So I like him in the top 20 plus 110. The other numbers, by the way, the reason that you don't see any of those top players other than Hovland and Young, most of them are minus money for a top 20. Rahm, Scheffler, all those guys. You can't play them. Matt Kuchar, T3. This man was made for this course. Plus 180, I love him in the top 20. Then the top 10, I'm all in on Russell Henley this week. Plus 400. His game was made for this. This is target golf. You don't want a bomber this week. Cameron Young is about as much of a bomber as you want to play here at RBC, because there's a lot of turns. You got to fade it, 180 yards down. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. All right. Right now, I got to be honest with you. I'm very, very hurt. My heart hurts of the negativity coming at me today. It really is. Patrick, you're going for a week, come back, and everybody's in love with you? Maybe I should leave for a week. Come back. Maybe everybody would love me too.
Yeah, I mean, you get it both ways, right? We had someone bring back Scott. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Everybody's had their favorites. Everybody has their favorites. All right, it is that time of the show. You make your money on your head-to-heads, make a little bit of money on your finishes, but this is the market that we love to flex said muscles. If we're not picking winners every week, damn it, we are right there every single week. So, Patrick, I know you play in this market, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, like I said, for the JT first-round leader pick, I'm the sucker this week. I bought in.
No.
28 to 1. I got involved. I just think there's enough in his game. Like I said, he's top 20 in each tee to green metric. I like his ability to club down off the tee, and he's putted these greens well. The putter has stunk, like KH Lee level bad from the chat recently, but I think he can return to form here. The artist that is needed this week, JT has. And then Shane Lowry, 35 to 1. Coach, simpatico there at least. probably should have won this tournament last year. He topped a 3-wood on the par 5 early. He chipped a ball into the water late. Still ended up finishing T3. Was 7th from tee to green at Augusta. First in driving accuracy, which I do like because double bogeys are around each and every corner at this place. So at 35-1, I got involved. And then Terrell Hatton, 45-1, T3 in that 2020 appearance, like I said. And he's putted these greens well. I think that's really the only downside. And I mean, how soon we forget this guy raced to the finish line at the Players Championship, another Pete Dye design, and finished second. So I think he'll be up for the challenge.
Well, you said it. You said, what have you done for me lately? That's what this business and this is all about. That was only a month ago. If you don't do something every single week, we forget very, very easily. That's why you have us. Mine are Spieth and Lowry for all the reasons we've already talked about. I don't need to waste any time on those two. I just really like them this week. See you. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'll go Colin Morikawa at plus 1,800. I'll note that with these top 3 guys, it's really concentrated with sort of short odds, which is why normally I'll have like 5 outrights. I think these top 3 have a lot of win equity, more win equity than the odds indicate. So I threw Keegan Bradley in there at the end. That's one of those you can take or you can kind of leave it. But let me start with Colin Morikawa at plus 1,800. I do think the game is trending. And if you actually look at the RBC last year, I believe he was second in the ball striking department. He really lost it with the short game. And honestly, I think the short game here at the RBC Heritage tends to be kind of random, especially with the around the green game. So I don't anticipate him giving a ton back. I think Colin Morikawa is just one of those guys that is ready to win, is going to pop at some time very soon. Cam Young and Victor Hovland, plus 2,000, plus 2,500. Don't need to go into that again. Just look at their top 10s over their last 3 or 4 tournaments. Cam Young has been a top 10 in 3 of the last 4. Victor Hovland has been in 3 of the last 3. And in Hovland's case, it's 3 amazing tournaments with amazing fields, the API, the Players, and the Masters. It's just so good with both of these guys. And then Keegan Bradley, like I said, I mean, this is just too big of a number for a guy that I think is a very good course fit. He hasn't played here in a while. I think the last time he played here was 2016 or 2017. So he has some experience on this course, but I do think he's the right guy for this course. In some markets, you could have caught him at like 100-1, 90-1. Now he's 80-1. I still think that's a very fair number for a guy that's shown some serious upside over the last 6 to 12 months.
Do you know why I like Keegan Bradley on a week like this? Because I like to lean into killers. And when I say that, what I mean by that is guys that every single week they show up, they want to beat you. They might not do it, but who is Keegan Bradley? He's one of his closest friends. What shoe does he wear every day on the golf course? Brand Jordan. MJ is his mentor. MJ was the ultimate competitor. Every time sitting out for rest, MJ never did that. They won 72 games one year. Players don't even play 72 games now. They won 72 games. Ultimate competitor. Lean into those guys. All right. We've reached the final segment of the show. And this is where we kind of put a little potpourri of everything. If it doesn't fit in other categories, here's where it belongs. And I'm looking at names and long shots, and I like it. Patrick, start us off here.
Going back to Denny Boy. I like him first round leader at 90-1 and outright at 130. Like I said, outside the Honda Classic where he was sick, he was thinking about withdrawing before that tournament. He ended up missing the cut. He's been great. And that's even in designated events. He looked good at the Valspar, looked good at the match play as well. Just ran into Rory McIlroy, which is going to happen, right? But, Rory McIlroy's not in this field. So I like Denny on this course. He has a nice history here. And I like that he hasn't really rolled the rock like Denny McCarthy lately. And he's gotten it done through his ball striking. So if you can marriage those two together, I think he could be in for a very good week. And, maybe he doesn't get it done all 4 rounds, but I do like him on Thursday in particular. 90-1 first round leader and 130 outright.
He said a few weeks ago, I wish people would stop talking about my putting because I'm so much more than that. Well, let's see, Denny. Let's see if you're more than that this week. I'm a big fan of his as well. Patrick McDonald, thank you very much. Now, I think Justin Rose has a chance this week at plus 7,000. He had a really good week last week at the Masters. He's been trending. He's won at Pebble Beach this year. So I like him a little sprinkle at plus 7,000. Then there's some new bets that you can make. And this one is from DK. And I think these are really fun, cool bets. And I was shocked at this number. Does this number shock you guys? To have Spieth and Cam Young both finish top 5 for plus 3,500 on DraftKings. Look it up. So I love this play because of the number. Plus 3,500. All you got to do is finish top 5, both of them. I'll do a little sprinkle on that as well. See ya. Bring us home.
Yeah, credit to DraftKings because they're doing these top 5 parlays where they're picking the guys for you. They're also doing it in the top 10 and the top 20 market, and you can literally just scan it and look for guys. I did this for the Masters actually, and I almost did it for this tournament too. I just had so many top 20s and top 40s that I decided that was going to be maybe just a little bit extra. But these are markets that we're going to look into, Coach, because it's one of those things, whether you want to pick top 5, which obviously is a little bit more risky, but the numbers in the top 10 and top 20 market for these sort of grouped players together are actually really palatable. So it's just something extra that we're probably going to have on the show from time to time. But first round leader, I just wanted to throw out one guy at a triple digit number, 110-1, Aaron Rai. He's one of those guys that I don't think has any chance to win the tournament, but he can really dial in on approach. And if he has a good putter for one singular round, I think 110-1. Listen, now we're starting to get really thin with our card because I'll tell you right now, I'm adding Denny McCarthy to my card. So that's already 6 guys that I'm betting. But if for some reason you came into this show and you had Aaron Rai on your mind, I think you could probably sprinkle something on him in the first round leader market. He's 7,000 in DraftKings. I don't hate that play. I think there's other guys in that range that I like a touch better, but I think Aaron Rai is definitely reasonable in DraftKings as well. As far as winners, I mentioned Wyndham Clark. I do think he's on an upward trajectory. I just don't know if this is the tournament where he can actually win. But at 100-1, I think I'm willing to sprinkle. And then Sam Stevens. What's so interesting about Stevens, other than what I've already mentioned, which he's finished 2nd and 3rd over 2 of his last tournaments, that being Corrales and Valero, he's also, if you look at his stats, they're not very good, except until recently. But a lot of those were non-measured events. If you look at Puerto Rico and you look at the crowds, those are non-measured events where he's playing really well. So what we're seeing is a couple measured events where we're saying, oh my gosh, Sam Stevens has really popped recently. Well, the reality is he's probably popped well before that. We're just not seeing it in the number. So again, 200-1, Sam Stevens actually contending in this field. It's a lot. Maybe you want to take him in the top 40 market, but if we're talking serious long shots, this guy is truly popping. Sam Stevens at 200-1.
There is a gap between the top players and the knowledge of fans at home. And maybe people actually do this for a living like us, because they don't like to look at Puerto Rico. They don't want to look at the Bahamas. They don't want to look at Mexico. But those tournaments still exist, and they're played, and there's just not a lot of attention there because they're usually opposite a big field event. This is the homework my guys do. This is the work they do for you. Because a lot of these names, if you've never heard of them, then they pop up. Oh, how come I didn't know? You hear them here, right here. So, gentlemen, we have reached the end of the line, but we like to end every single show asking my guys, what's the number one most important thing they're looking forward to this week? To use it for their picks this week or to use it moving forward? And by the way, somebody in the chat asked if these were tournament picks. They're all tournament picks. My guys routinely and myself will give out round-by-round picks on our social media. All right, Patrick McDonald, what are you looking forward to the most this week?
Of all the designated events, I think this one will be most conducive to a surprise winner. We saw a Kurt Kitayama type at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, but the Harbortown Golf Links is not a course these guys typically play. They're coming off such a high from Augusta National and the Masters, where it might lead to a Denny McCarthy or a Sam Stevens or a Wyndham Clark sneaking in there on Sunday and into the tartan jacket. So I'm looking at some of these lesser known players trying to make a run at the big boys like Nick Taylor at WM Phoenix Open and entering the winner's circle.
See it? Talk to me.
Well, going into this tournament, I think we have this preconceived notion that there's just 2 guys at the top, maybe 3 if you want to include Rory there. But I think it's tournaments like this and tournaments that are coming up, including the majors, where we might alter our conversation. Maybe there's going to be new guys invited to that upper tier party, that top 3 or top 4 party. We just don't know who they are yet. It only takes, we know this because of how fickle golf is and just golf fandom is. We know that it only takes one guy winning a couple tournaments for us to say, oh my gosh, this guy is the best in the world. So I'm really interested to see guys like Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Cameron Young, even Justin Thomas. Can some of these guys rattle off some big time tournaments and enter into the contest of, hey, are you a top 3 or 4 player in the world? And this is a tournament where some of those guys can really make a statement finally.
Yeah, it's all about attitude for me this week. I love what you just said. See ya. It's all about attitude. And these players need to understand, yes, you've got a Masters hangover. But if I was to tell you, just lay the schedule out and tell you that this week you can get bonus points, that this will leapfrog you ahead, you'd say, hey, I'm all in. It just happens to come right after the Masters. But this is what it's all about in big-time sports, ladies and gentlemen. There are schedules. Players have to show up, and they have to dig down deep. Who's going to dig the deepest? That's what I'm looking forward to this week. Another phenomenal show from my boys and from all of you in the chat. Can't do it without you. We changed it 3 hours earlier. You still found us. That's the power of the Early Edge universe. So with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And for those of you watching live, we have Early Edge in 5 in 15 minutes. Stay tuned for that. But I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Early Wedge golf tickets straight to the pay window for my entire crew. Love 'em. Patrick McDonald's back from the Masters doing work. Seeing Nejad here every single day. The Snake doing all the hard work, making the show look phenomenal. I'm simply the coach, trying to keep this train on the track. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's what we're all about at the Early Wedge. Good luck.